I'm sure most of us have heard about Pac-Man. The little guy running around a large blue maze eating little pellets all while being chased by the four ghosts Blinky, Inky, Pinky, and Clyde. Even if you aren't familiar with the game, there's no doubt you've seen one of the countless references and parodies of the game that are out there. Speaking of parodies, one of the things I've always been interested in is when people take a piece of media and try to remake it as some form of horror. I've seen this done with Pac-Man before, but most of them just boil down to some spooky smiley face man running around a maze. So that's why I wanted to do my own take on a Pac-Man horror redesign, along with some lore that I've given to this otherwise simple game. So let's dive into that. The first design we'll be looking at is Pac-Man himself. Most horror media about Pac-Man has him as the monster, and that's what I'm doing with this redesign, but I have some reason behind this decision which I'll get into later. For this design, I took some inspiration from how Pac-Man is depicted in most cover art for the game, with the same arms and legs and the cartoony proportions. One thing I changed, however, was the eyes. In the actual game, we never see Pac-Man's eyes, so that's why for this design, I made it so his eyes are constantly closed. You could think of it as a metaphor for how he's blinded by his own hunger. Also, something I only noticed halfway through designing him is he kind of looks like a racist caricature of a Japanese person, which I promise that was not intentional. As for the nose, I wanted him to have a sort of uncanny human appearance. Almost like a metaphor for how hunger can turn people into monsters if they lose control. As for the mouth, I wanted to make it the main focus of his face, since that's all he really is in-game, a yellow head with a mouth. I also gave him 2 rows of teeth similar to a shark to really exaggerate and draw attention to his mouth. One other feature I added to this version was that I gave him a tongue similar to that of a frog, which takes inspiration from that one animated series where he has a similar power. While he does have 2 arms and 2 legs, I imagine he'd mostly be running on all 4s when chasing the ghosts, since he needs to get around quickly. Now that I've gone over the redesign, I want to go over the lore for him and the ghosts. Pac-Man is a really simple game, but that hasn't stopped countless interpretation of what is going on in the game. Some interpretations say that Pac-Man is someone struggling with mental health issues, and the pellets are the medication that he uses to help him fight the ghosts, which are just a physical representation of his mental health. While that interpretation does sound interesting, I have a slightly different theory. I personally think that the ghosts in this game are people who are stuck in purgatory, and the only way they are able to move on to the afterlife is to slay the beast that they are trapped with. That, of course, being Pac-Man. So, in summary,
Pac-Man's a bad guy?
Now, moving on to the ghosts. I didn't really have any cool ideas for them, so I just gave them a nice and simple design. I wanted them to look as though they're constantly concerned, since, they're trapped in an endless labyrinth with something that wants to eat them. By the way, and this is unrelated, but you know how they say eyes are the window to the soul, and when Pac-Man eats the ghosts, all that's left is their eyes? Just a weird coincidence, I noticed. Anyway, I made all the ghosts identical as a sort of second punishment, because since they're in purgatory for doing bad things, they've basically been physically stripped of their humanity, with only the colors of their bodies to help differentiate each other. I also made it so they don't have mouths as a sort of reference to the ending of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which looks a lot more obvious with the blue ghost design for when Pac-Man eats a big pellet. The way he eats the ghosts is he sucks them up Luigi's Mansion style while also using the tongue to pull them in. Then once they're eaten, they regenerate and are forced to go through the same process until they somehow kill Pac-Man, truly showing that they are in the hell of their own making. And finally, I decided to do a cover art concept with my redesigned Pac-Man, similar to those you'd see on an arcade machine or some other piece of merchandise. And there you have it, my horror remake of Pac-Man. Not really sure what to name this version, but you guys can give me ideas. You're also more than welcome to use this concept for animations, games, and other stuff, as long as you give credit. Anyway, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this shorter than usual video, and I'll see you some other time.